My name is Stephen Hales. I'm an owner of an advertising agency. I'm a graphic designer. I'm a father of 7 kids, and I'm a Zorro collector.
Out of the night, when the full moon is bright, comes a horseman known as Zorro. This bold renegade carves a Z with his blade, a Z that stands for Zorro. Zorro, Zorro, the fox so cunning and free. Zorro, Zorro, who makes the sign of the Z.
When I was small, I wanted to be an artist, and my ideal job growing up was to work for Walt Disney Studios, and I think that's probably how I got interested in Zorro. It was from Walt Disney, and about the time I was probably 5 or 6, it was on television, and I thought it was interesting, and of course I didn't think much about it. Zorro was a story written by Johnson McCulley in about 1919, I think is when it first started. He serialized it in some very cheap Western magazines. And the first Zorro story was called The Curse of Capistrano, and it was syndicated in 3 magazines over 3 issues. And this is the last issue. These are very, very rare. In the 1920s, Douglas Fairbanks picked it up as a movie, and there was a movie made called The Mark of Zorro. And it was kind of the original swashbuckling hero kind of a person. Walt Disney actually saw Zorro, and when he was looking to finance Disneyland in the late 1950s, he thought about maybe making a TV show that he could sell to ABC and talk to him about it. And Zorro was something that he'd seen, was interested in, and so it actually ended up working. It was a big hit. So the first Zorro TV shows were in, I think it started in 1957. And ran until 1958. It was just a 2-year series, and it was very, very popular. But then Walt Disney had a kind of a falling out with ABC, and so they canceled the show at the height of its popularity. He kept all the actors on the payroll just in case he started back up again for a few years, but it never really happened after that. And then in the 1960s, about 1967, 68, almost 10 years later, they re-syndicated it, so that's when I saw it as a kid. The first thing that, the thing that really got me started on Zorro was kind of the birth of the internet, the birth of eBay. When that company started, eBay, we heard about it, we read about it, and I thought, this is kind of a cool idea. And so I went online and didn't really know what to look for. And I remembered when I was a little kid, my grandmother had given me a Zorro lunchbox. It was on a day that I was having a miserable day, and we went to her house and she gave this to me, and it's still in my mind like the greatest thing that ever happened to me, to cheer me up. I thought, I wonder if they have something like that. And so I searched, and they did. There was a Zorro lunchbox, just like the one that I'd had as a kid. That was one of the first things that I got, and then I started thinking of other things that I had as a kid, and they weren't all immediately available, but over a couple of years I started seeing some of these things. And after I started getting some of the things that I'd had as a kid and toys that I'd played with, then I started realizing, well, there's a lot of other things out there, and there seemed to be competition for them as well. So where I could pick them up, we did, and we probably accumulated this stuff over a period of maybe 5 years. Not everything I've got is from eBay. Other things have come from other sources as well. But there are some people that their life is Zorro. And those kinds of, I've never really considered myself in that category. It's mostly been the things that I enjoyed as a kid, and it hasn't been really hero worship of the stars and that kind of thing. But yeah, it's been kind of a fun thing to do on the side. Guy Williams' signature. Guy Williams is the actor that portrayed Zorro in Disney's TV show. And he didn't sign a lot of Zorro pictures. he would go to Disneyland sometimes and reenact Zorro sword fights, and people would come up to him and he'd sign a lot of autographs, but very few of them were actually on pictures of Zorro. And so there aren't a ton of Guy Williams signatures. You know, they're, I think, $300 to $500, but one on a Zorro photograph is expensive, and I have one of those. And I have signatures of most of the main actors. The guy who was Sergeant Garcia, I have his signature. It's not on a Zorro photo, but the guy who played, you know, the Spanish captain who was the opponent of Zorro, I have his autograph on a photograph. I've got a couple of the secondary actors. I've got signatures of other people who played Zorro too, but I don't consider those to be valuable. You know, Antonio Banderas and Anthony Hopkins, and you know, nice try, but it doesn't quite stack up against. I think everybody thinks of the original Zorro as the Walt Disney Zorro, even though there have been Zorro films before that. It wasn't until Walt Disney started doing it that Zorro became really popular. And here's a photograph of Guy Williams with a representative from the Walt Disney Studios looking at a cabinet of Zorro toys. Walt Disney had just done the Davy Crockett show before they did Zorro, and they actually made more money on selling the memorabilia associated with the TV show than they did on the TV show itself. So they were sort of prepared to do this. Zorro was the second thing that they did after the Davy Crockett show, where they had a lot of things to sell the kids. And here's Guy Williams dressed up like Zorro with 3 toys, including this one right here, this magic slate, which is kind of a drawing tablet that you draw, and then you lift up the piece of cellophane and it erases. There were some sponsors that came on, like 7-Up sponsored the TV show, and so they made tie-ins. Here's a pretty rare case of 7-Up with the Zorro advertisement on the front. Zorro, or 7-Up actually made these buttons for people too as giveaways, and there seem to be a lot of those still left around. Lots of Zorro guns. Most of them are these flintlocks, but there are also a bunch of cap guns and even a shotgun. Let me see where that one is. Over here. This is an example of kind of what I was mentioning earlier. It's not a toy that was designed to be for the Zorro TV show, but they stick a Zorro sticker on it and then it becomes a Zorro item, even though I don't think Zorro ever hunted with a shotgun. Probably the most popular Zorro toy of all were these little swords, and I don't think they had the same safety standards that we have today, but they would put a piece of chalk on the ends of these. I think one of them that I have still has the little holder for chalk, and that way kids could make a Z on sidewalks or on walls or that kind of thing. This is really an interesting one here. I can grab this. This is a dry cleaning bag that has the Zorro picture on it, and here where the eyes are, it says cut out, and so after you pick up your dry cleaning, your kid could get inside of this and cut out the arms and stick his arms out. And this is interesting too. When DuPont started making plastic dry cleaning bags, they did it too. So here's this ad says, look what's better now because of DuPont plastic. So you take this plastic dry cleaning bag and put it over your kid's head so he can play inside of that. There was one set of photographs. You know, photographs will come up from time to time from the Zorro film, and if they're original, you know, made by the Walt Disney Studios back when the series was in production, they're worth more than photos that have been printed since then. But this was from the estate of an artist who had been commissioned to draw a coloring book, so create the art for a coloring book. And apparently they'd gone and got about 300 photographs of all kinds of Zorro sets, you know, the actors, the locations, and they stamped them on the back. Property of Walt Disney Studios, do not remove from the studios. You know, pretty restrictive. And this guy used them, I guess, to draw a coloring book, and then when he died, they were in his estate. And so they were worth quite a bit of money, and that's the kind of thing that doesn't come up, because they don't. That's probably a one-of-a-kind collection in the world, and that was hard to get. The lunchbox is one thing that I had as a kid, but there was one thing that I wanted as a kid and never got. That was the crowning achievement for me. I remember I must have been 5 or 6 years old, and I would go stay with my grandparents for my birthday, and they would go buy me a birthday present, and we went to Woolworths in downtown Provo, and it was right where the New Skin building is now, and on the shelf they had this Zorro action figure, Zorro with a horse in a box, and I just thought that was the greatest thing, and I begged my grandmother to get it for me, and she thought about it, and she looked at it, and it was too much, and so she never got it. We never got it. I never saw it again in my life until again eBay came on, and finally here it was. I saw one that was actually just by itself, the action figure by itself. A couple years later, one came on the market that actually had the box with it. And so that's the only one I've ever seen, and I was able to get it finally. Saddle, latigo straps, saddle horn, gird straps, pole band, brow band, nose strap, bit, chin strap, rein, cape, hat, string, reins, whip, sword, mask, horse, and accessories. I don't know that it's affected my life so much. It's not something that I dwell on, but I have always thought that it's cool. I can be here in my office, working my own company, and sometimes there's challenges and so on, but on a particularly bad day, I'll just look around and think, wow, I'm surrounded by all this Zorro stuff that I would have been thrilled to have as a kid. If I would have imagined what would be the best case scenario when I was 8 years old of what my life would be like when I'm 50, I would have imagined it surrounded by Zorro stuff, and here I am surrounded by Zorro stuff. So life can't be that bad.